my colleagues at the, on stage, and respected delegates. I'd like to thank SIAM for inviting CMTA to make this presentation and to join the panel today on, to cover the Sri Lankan motor industry. In the interest of time, I will not go into too much of detail, but I will breeze through on the areas that I intend to cover. Ceylon Motor Traders Association basically was formed in 1919, and our association is made up of all the franchise holders of global automotive brands. And the objective is, of course, to be the voice of the industry in Sri Lanka, motor industry, and to have sustainable development in coordination with all stakeholders and the government. Sri Lanka has around 8.5 million vehicles at the moment, and over 50% are over 10 years old. Judging from the yardstick of units per 1,000 people, we project about a future market potential of about over 4 million two-wheelers and about over 1 million passenger cars, as well as a substantial amount of commercial vehicles yet to come into the country. By 2019, Sri Lanka was one of the largest export markets for Indian manufacturers, many Indian manufacturers. And trends, there were various trends in subsegments. For example, rapid scooterization, up to 60% of the market. There was a sudden change of government policy in 2017, where the passenger market moved to lower capacity and also lower capacity, high luxury European brands. And the three-wheeler market, which was actually supporting a lot of mobility, was being restricted by the government. Likewise, a lot of changes were there. And then, of course, in 2020, we all got impacted with COVID. For us, there was an additional impact. That was the forex crisis that we had, as well as the financial crisis in our country. Therefore, the government suspended all imports of all types of vehicles in March 2020, and the suspension continues to date in its 34th month. Further, we had issues with importing spare parts also, genuine spare parts. The formal channels were restricted. Exponential increase in used vehicles and nearly 30% on lending rates, leasing rates. This created a lot of problems for the automotive businesses in the country, and a lot of job losses were there. Dealerships, SMEs were closed, and reduction in our only left business, which was genuine spares. These were the impacts. But now, after 2 years, our current government has been taking various steps to come out of it, and we see some positive outcomes in terms of the economic changes. Moving on to the inconsistency of the government policies. Successive governments in Sri Lanka have failed to come up with solid, sustainable policies for the automotive sector. And therefore, every subsegment had a lot of volatility, whether it's two-wheelers, three-wheelers, passenger cars, and so on. The government revenue, out of the government revenue, nearly 8% was from the motor sector, and that also got impacted. And several other complications were there. CMTA and several other stakeholders were lobbying strongly with the government to have stable policies. And finally, within the last 12 months or so, we see a lot of positive outcome in terms of policy development, which is the main area of today's topic. So most of the policies that we have been developing, which are coming out now in Sri Lanka, are mainly geared towards creating safe, accessible, quality mobility for all, while protecting the environment and also creating industries around the motor sector, especially in component manufacturing and local value addition and local assembly of vehicles. The development of the national policy for automobile industry, which is led by the Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Industries, is one of the key policies which is being kicked off now. The Ministry of Industries is looking at the standard regulations and rules for the electric vehicles. This will cover any electric vehicle which is going to come into Sri Lanka or to be assembled in Sri Lanka. We have another strong policy which is coming out in the service sector, which is the garage registration and service standards done by the Ministry of Transport. Any garage, any workshop which will be servicing, repairing or assembling a vehicle will fall under these standards and will be graded and regulated accordingly. PUCL, which is the regulator for lubricants, will also kick off a market monitoring program for lubricants, where they will be raiding retail outlets which are selling non-genuine and used oil as genuine, which will be a very good thing for genuine lubricant brands and grease brands in the country. The Cabinet took a decision in April 2021 to move forward and promote mainly electric vehicles. And as such, at the moment, there's a great initiative happening in Sri Lanka where the commercial buses are going to be electrified, especially in the high volume routes initially, and then move into other sectors. At the same time, 2 months ago, the government took a decision that by 2026, all vehicles which will be purchased by the government will be electric going forward from 2026. And that's going to create open substantial markets for the electric industry, electric vehicles. Finally, as the last point on this slide, it's the automotive roadmap that CMTA, our association, has kicked off. We have contracted KPMG to do an automotive roadmap in consultation with all the ministries and stakeholders related. And actually, our intention is to mainly align our policies with India, because majority of the vehicles which came to Sri Lanka have been manufactured in India. So therefore, we feel it's more sensible to do so, and that will further create bigger markets for Indian manufacturers in Sri Lanka. Amidst the ongoing import suspension, still there are 3 ways that vehicles can be imported to Sri Lanka. One is the 25% local value addition scheme, which provides a 70% duty reduction for any manufacturer. That is actually being promoted by the Ministry of Industries, as the Ministry of Industries is promoting a lot of auto-related industries at the moment and giving a lot of benefits. Second option is the migrant worker scheme, where migrant workers can import electric vehicles after transferring a certain amount of funds into the country. And third is the 180-day credit LC scheme for electric two-wheelers, which are open. What you see on the screen now are the facilities and the assembly lines of TVS, Mahindra and Bajaj operating in Sri Lanka. The 3 brands invested heavily. In addition to that, there were several other brands who have invested to do this 25% local value addition, which allows them to operate in Sri Lanka currently. Under the 180-day credit scheme, Vmoto, an Australian brand, and Okaya, an Indian brand, also launched, and several other brands are to be launched very soon. So market is moving forward. And finally, I'd like to touch on a proposal that CMTA is promoting, which is component manufacturing in Sri Lanka, which a group which is jointly held by the franchise holders and supported by the Indian component manufacturers. The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Mr. Gopal Bagle, is very supportive of this, and he's planning on a delegation to come from India to Sri Lanka within the next few months. And I'd like to take this opportunity to invite all the component manufacturers here to join us to invest in Sri Lanka. Any entity who is investing in Sri Lanka at the moment has 3 excellent routes. One is the Board of Investment channel, second is the Port City project, third is the Ministry of Environment. All these channels each of these channels have their own merits, which are shown. In addition to that, there are other negotiable merits as well. So with that, I'd like to wind up. And once again, thank you, SIAM, for giving us this opportunity. And may you all have a pleasant day. And I'll be more than happy to take any questions if you all have. Thank you.